Good day to you. My name is Peter Jordan. In this video, I'd like to talk about the perpetrator and their grooming process, what it is that they do, how it is that they go about this thing to groom children in order for them to molest the children or to have sex with the children. It's quite an interesting process, but it's very important. It's got very important information for you to know. And I would suggest is that you listen to this so that you can tell other people around you just how important that this kind of information is to know. Our children need to be protected in all ways and always. So with that, I'd like to kick off. Okay, it's not enough to warn a child to stay away from strangers. The majority of children are molested by those they know and trust, but may not be known by other family members. We also have a lesser known but growing category of molesters, children who perpetrate sexual crimes upon younger children themselves. Just over half of the child molesters were molested themselves as children. A typical molester will abuse between 30 and 60 children before they are arrested. That is for the more serious offender. The more minor offender will molest between 1 and 5 children. Imagine the scale of the trauma in any country around the world. The threat and what lies ahead of us as a nation is staggering. We owe it to our children to remember that the next generation of molesters is coming out of this generation and to act accordingly. Recently, the US Department of Justice reported 4 million child molesters that reside in that country. It is well known that almost half of all sexual offenders are under the age of 18. A number of rehabilitation programs for juvenile sex offenders has grown, not only in this country, but worldwide. Rape arrests of male minors has increased dramatically. So what are the characteristics of molesters? That they can have adult sex partners, but children seem to be the primary sex object. Lifestyles which give them easy access to children. They target specific gender, age, hair, and eye color. They use threats to manipulate and control victims, or they bribe them with gifts, love, or promises to lure victims into their confidence before victimization takes place. They may commit the first offense when they are in their teens and then carry on from there until they're finally arrested. Sometimes they carry on even after that. They continue their behavior even after conviction and treatment. Are mostly males, but females also molest. May video or photograph sexual activity with children to exchange with other molesters and or shame the child into not telling anyone of the abuse. Molesters, some of them, network with pornographers, and their pictures are used for commercial child pornography. Pictures are also traded with others interested in sex with children and become part of the cottage child pornography industry. So, how do they go about finding their victim and how do they do it? They most often use traps, including asking for help in finding a lost puppy or carrying books and groceries or asking for directions. Young children are lured by money, toys, candy, or promise of puppies and kittens, etc. Older children perhaps are lured by money, drugs, alcohol, and promise of movie careers, particularly those that want to be models. Molesters take advantage of the fact that children are taught to look up to authority figures and respect and obey adults. A child is not prepared when a relative or a neighbor or other acquaintance makes sexual advances. The best way to deal with a problem is through education before it occurs. An abductor preys upon children who take shortcuts to school, look depressed, are loners, appear unkept, neglected, or unsupervised, who frequent malls, gaming places, and video arcades. Abductors often use uniform and badges of authority to convince a child to go with them, using statements such as, "Your parents have been in an accident and you are wanted at the hospital." We can alert our children to danger without frightening them. Explain that most adults are dedicated to their protection and welfare, but there are some people who simply are not. Telling a child to look both ways when crossing the street does not create a fear of cars. It prevents serious injury. As parents, we are obligated to give our children survival skills in all areas of life. The grooming of children for sexual molestation. Gregory Weber, you're a thief, a con artist. You recently met an elderly widow with a good-sized bank account, fueled by pension or filled by pension and dividends checks. In sharp contrast, your own financial engine is running on fumes. You decide to take her money. So you befriend the lady, you run small errands for her, you buy her gifts, you listen to her stories, you comfort her when she feels lonely, you put your arms around her and you tell her that you understand her problems. You spend time with her each day. You tell her she's special. You gain her trust. Her natural her natural suspicion disappears. Only then does the conversation shift to money. You tell her about a tremendous investment opportunity that you have. You offer her a chance to share in this special event. If she is curious, you play out on that curiosity. You answer her questions and you downplay her fears. And your work pays off over time. She starts to trust you. She signs the check. 3 minutes after her bank opens, you're in the wind. You cash in hand and ready to target your next victim. But what if you are a child molester, a predator? What if the object of your desire isn't the widow's bank account, but her 6-year-old grandson? What steps would you take to get what you want from him? Not much will change. The predator will identify and engage his victim. He'll gain the child's trust, break down his defenses, and manipulate him into performing or permitting the desired sex act. If necessary, the predator will gain access to the child by employing the same techniques with the child's parent or adult caretaker. The process is called grooming. It increases the predator's access to his victim and decreases the likelihood of being discovered. An assaulter is a respected psychologist. She's an expert in the field of child sexual maltreatment, and she spells it out. The establishment and, in brackets, eventual betrayal, close brackets, of affection and trust occupies a central role in the child molester's interaction with children. The grooming process often seems similar from offender to offender, largely because it takes little to discover that the emotional seduction is the most effective way to manipulate children. These men are convicted child molesters. They too are experts in the field of child maltreatment, and they also spell it out like this. Parents are so naive. They worried about strangers and should be worried about their brother-in-law. They just don't realize how devious we can be. I used to abuse children in the same room as I was with their parents, and they couldn't see it or didn't seem to know that it was happening. I was disabled and spent months grooming the parents, so they would tell their children to take me out and to help me. No one thought that disabled people could be abusers. Parents are partly to blame if they don't tell their children about sexual matters. I used it to my advantage by teaching the child myself. Parents shouldn't be embarrassed to talk about things like this. It's harder to abuse or trick a child who knows what you're up to. Here is what the predators are up to. Grooming is a process. It begins when the predator chooses a target area. He may visit places where children are likely to go, such as schools, shopping malls, playgrounds, parks, and the like. He may work or volunteer at businesses that cater to children. Other predators strike up relationships with adults who have children in the home. Single-parent families make particularly good targets. Victim selection and recruitment are next. There is no prototypical victim of a child sexual abuse. Any child may be victimized. Not surprisingly, predators often target children with obvious vulnerabilities. A child who feels unloved and unpopular will soak up adult attention like a sponge. children with family problems who spend time alone and unsupervised, who lack confidence and self-esteem, and who are isolated from their peers are all likely targets. Predators engage or recruit their victims in different ways. Many use a combination of forced teaming and charm. They may offer to play games, give rides, or buy treats and gifts as tokens of friendship. They may offer drugs or alcohol to older children or teenagers. And they almost always offer a sympathetic, understanding ear. Your parents don't understand or respect you. I do. Other kids make fun of you. I know what life's like. It was the same for me when I was your age. They don't trust you at home. Boy, I know what that's like. Your parents never really want you to grow up. But I trust you. I respect you. I care for you more than anybody else. And what's more, I really love you. I'm here for you. Successful predators find and fill the voids in a child's life. A predator will usually introduce secrecy at some point during the grooming process. Initially, secrecy binds the victim to the predator. Here is some candy, but don't tell your friends because they'll be jealous. And don't tell your mother because she won't like you eating between meals. Later, the secrecy joins hands with threats. If you tell your mother what happened, she'll hate you. It'll kill her, or I'll kill her, or I'll kill you. Forging an emotional bond through the grooming process leads to physical contact. Predators use the grooming process to break down a child's defenses and increase the child's acceptance of touch. The first physical contact between the predator and the victim is often non-sexual touching designed to identify limits, and an accidental touch or an arm around the shoulder, a brushing of the hair, or something similar. Non-sexual touching desensitizes the child. It breaks down inhibitions and leads to more overt sexual touching, the predator's ultimate goal. The best way to recognize grooming behavior is to pay attention to your child and the people in your child's life. Gavin de Becker sensibly reminds us that children require the protection of adults, usually from adults. Their fear of people is not yet developed. Their intuition is not yet loaded with enough information and experience to keep them from harm. There are many demands placed upon our time, but nothing is more important than the welfare of our children. When we blindly surrender responsibility for them to others without question, we invite trouble. Parents should know their children's teachers, their coaches, their daycare providers, the youth group leaders, and other significant adults in their lives. Make unannounced visits, ask questions, and stay involved. And please talk to your children. Teach them to recognize grooming behavior. Teach them to be wary of any physical contact initiated by an adult. And teach them to trust you with their problems and their pain. The safest child is the child who knows he can bring his problems and concerns to parents and adult caregivers without reproach or retaliation. The influence of pornography. The number of victims of childhood sexual abuse and molestation grows each year. This horrific crime is directly tied to the growth of pornography on the internet. Studies conducted by the various organizations have shown that pornography is extremely influential in the actions of sex offenders and serial murders. Further, statistics show that 90% of the predators who molest children have had some type of involvement with pornography. According to research reveals that 77% of child molesters of boys and 87% of child molesters of girls admitted imitating the sexual behavior they had seen in pornography that they had watched. Roughly 33% of girls and 14% of boys are molested before the age 18. According to various state departments, nearly 2/3 of all sexual assaults reported involved minors and roughly 1/3 involved children under the age of 12. In most cases, however, child molestation goes unreported. Estimates are that only a small percentage, although some say that only 35% of the sexual abuse is reported. Kids can be frightened or embarrassed and many times do not say anything. The mere mention of child molestation strikes us as adults with fear. Our first response is likely to be one of denial. This could never happen in my family. I don't have to be concerned about this in my community. We have been using denial as individuals and as a society to escape the truth at great expense to our children. We have more evidence to link pornography to sexual crimes against children than we do cigarette smoking to cancer. The Surgeon General's report on pornography and public health, this is in 2006, and the final report of the Attorney General's Commission on Pornography, again in 2006, attest to the harms of the pornography, as do numerous other studies by experts in the field. We have more outlets for hardcore pornography than we do McDonald's restaurants. And our 12 to 17-year-old boys are among the best consumers. Dr. Frederick Worthman, a psychiatrist who treats troubled children who have done terrible things, tells us that a child's mind is like a bank. What goes into it comes back 10 years later with interest. We see this illustrated in the results of a Kansas City survey of high school students, which revealed that 60% of the boys thought it was all right to rape a girl. If they thought they were going, sorry, let me read that again. We see this illustrated in the results of a Kansas City survey of high school students, which revealed that 60% of the boys thought that it was all right to rape a girl if they thought that they were going to marry her. We are reaping the harvest sown by pornography's consistent theme that reduces children and women to sexual toys or things or just objects. And they are subservient to those able to control them. It bears repeating that 29% of victims of rape are less than 11 years old. Another 32% between 11 and 17. And rape has risen by 523% since 1960. The following are just two cases which further demonstrates how pornography is poisoning the minds of our youth. A 10-year-old boy raped and sodomized 4 younger children in an apartment complex. When asked by the police, where did he get such an idea? The boy showed them his parents' pornography. One 16-year-old boy was forced to seek counseling for an addiction to dial-a-porn. He came to his mother in tears, asking why she never warned him about the effects of pornography. In the next video, I will carry on with the subject, and we start off talking about the computer predators. This is a video that you really must see. This is about the media, the social media being used to prey upon your children. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.